There are moments in history that do not announce themselves. They do not arrive with ceremony or warning. They simply happen. And the world, without realizing it, is never the same again. Tomorrow is one of those moments, not because a ball will be kicked, not because anthems will echo through 70,000 throats, but because something far older than sport is about to stir again, something that lives in the marrow of this game, something that has been building, quietly and ruthlessly, for over a century. The 2026 FIFA World Cup does not begin tomorrow as a tournament. It begins as a reckoning. And somewhere in that reckoning, a throne sits vacant. To understand why that throne matters, you must first go back to a time before analytics, before billion-dollar transfer fees, before the algorithm decided what beautiful football was supposed to look like. You must go back to a sun-drenched afternoon in Mexico City, 1970, where a team in yellow and blue descended onto a pitch not as athletes but as artists commissioned by God himself. That Brazilian side, Pelé, Jairzinho, Tostão, Rivellino, did not play football the way other nations played football. They did not merely compete, they composed. Every pass was a sentence in a language the world had never heard spoken so fluently. Their movement was not rehearsed, it was felt. When Pelé collected a ball with his chest and turned in a single round human brilliance, they won that World Cup without losing a single match. They won it in a manner so complete, so total, that FIFA allowed them to keep the Jules Rimet trophy permanently, as if the committee itself understood. This team was not a champion. This team was a civilization. Civilizations fall. That is their nature. 16 years later, in the Mexican heat once more, a different kind of empire announced itself. Argentina arrived in 1986, not with the elegance of that 1970 Brazil side, but with something rawer and more dangerous. Desperation refined into genius. And at the center of it, a 5'5" man from the streets of Villa Fiorito who carried an entire nation's grief on his left foot. Diego Armando Maradona did not transcend football. He weaponized it. His goal against England in the quarterfinals, 60 yards, 6 defenders, one impossible surge through a nation still bleeding from the Falklands, was not a goal. It was a declaration of something that cannot be taught, cannot be purchased, and cannot be defended against. That tournament belonged to one man the way hurricanes belong to the sea. And when Argentina lifted that trophy in the Azteca, the world did not applaud a nation. It bowed to a singular, unrepeatable force of human will. Then came the Spanish Empire of 2010, different in texture, devastating in effect, where settling, inevitability, under Vicente del Bosque, with Xavi Hernandez conducting a midfield orchestra that passed opponents into submission. Spain did not dominate through speed or strength. They dominated through possession, through the quiet, suffocating act of simply never giving the ball back. Iniesta, Villa, Xavi, Busquets. They averaged over 70% possession in the knockout rounds. Against them, teams did not lose. They exhausted. They searched for a ball that was never coming and slowly, methodically, ceased to exist as threats. It was the most sophisticated tactical empire the sport had ever seen, and it ruled for 6 consecutive years across 2 World Cups and 2 European championships, an unprecedented dynasty in the modern era. And then, like all empires, it aged. The architects retired. The blueprint calcified. The throne emptied. That is where we stand today. The throne has been vacant since 2018, when France claimed it with a generation of jaw-dropping athleticism. And France has been to every final since 2018, 2022, twice in a row. But they have not consolidated. They have not built an empire. They have won a crown without planting a flag. And that distinction matters more than people realize. A champion holds a trophy. An empire reshapes how the game is played for generations. The question tomorrow poses is not simply who will win. The question is whether any team alive today has the capacity not just to conquer, but to colonize the imagination of the sport. France will try. With Kylian Mbappé, perhaps the most physically complete forward of his generation, now wearing the captain's armband at Real Madrid, and carrying the full weight of a nation's expectation, Les Bleus arrive as the closest thing this tournament has to a predetermined protagonist. Mbappé is not merely fast. He is conceptually threatening. The kind of player whose presence alone warps how opposing coaches write their team sheets the night before. Beside him, Ousmane Dembélé, the current Ballon d'Or, can dismantle defenses with a single touch. Behind them, Tchouaméni, Kanté, and a defensive line of absurd Premier League caliber quality. France is not a contender. France is a blueprint pretending to be a team. But then there is Brazil. There is always Brazil. 5 World Cup titles, the most in history, and yet they have not held that trophy since 2002. 24 years of hunger is not a footnote. It is a wound, and into that wound, Brazil has poured Vinicius Jr., the Real Madrid forward who terrified La Liga defenses for 3 consecutive seasons, whose dribbling carries a recklessness that borders on contempt for physics. Alongside him, Rafinha orchestrates. Endrick waits in the wings with the patience of a predator who knows his moment is near. And in a storyline that writes itself, Neymar has returned, older, repaired, perhaps diminished, but still capable of doing things with a football that make educated men question what they know about the game. If Brazil finds cohesion, if those individual flames burn in the same direction at the same time, they will not be a team. They will be a force of nature wearing green and gold. England carries the weight of 60 years without a World Cup. But this time, they have something they have never quite had before in combination. Genuine world-class talent at every position. Jude Bellingham, operating in the deepest gears of international football, with the composure of a 20-year veteran at 22 years old. Harry Kane, clinical and relentless, whose goal record speaks in a language all defenders understand. Bukayo Saka, capable on any given night of making the best right-back in the world look ordinary. England does not lack talent. England has always lacked the belief that talent alone is enough. Whether that belief finally arrives in North America is the oldest and most beautiful question in English football. And Argentina, the defending champions, arrive older, quieter, and dangerous in precisely the way aging lions are dangerous. The Messi chapter has closed. The post-Messi chapter is being written in real time, and no one yet knows what language it will be written in. 48 teams, 16 host cities across the United States, Canada, and Mexico. 88 matches, 1 throne. Somewhere in this tournament, a moment will happen that you will remember for the rest of your life. A goal that hangs in the air longer than physics should allow. A save that redefines what the human body is capable of. A face, obscure, unknown this morning, worshipped by tonight, erupting from the anonymous mass of a squad, and announcing itself to the world with the kind of authority that cannot be manufactured. History does not schedule these moments. It simply makes space for them. And the brave step in. The great empires of this sport were not built in stadiums. They were built in the gap between what was expected and what actually happened. Brazil 1970 was supposed to be great. They became eternal. Maradona was supposed to be good. He became myth. Spain was supposed to contend. They became the standard by which all contention is measured. Tomorrow someone walks onto a pitch in a nation built on the idea of reinvention, under a sky that has seen empires born and buried, with billions of eyes and one simple ancient question hanging in the air above them. Who are you? And what will you leave behind? The throne is empty. The field is green. The whistle is 48 hours away. Tell me, who do you believe will rise? Who carries the weight of history lightly enough to sprint under it, and powerfully enough to finally, permanently, sit down, leave your answer below. And if this is the first time the Legacy on Pitch channel has found you, stay, because this is only the beginning of the story we are going to tell together.